All right. Are we alive, Broncos country? Looks like we are alive. Welcome into this Denver Broncos Syndicate post-game show, Broncos country. The Denver Broncos third string, fourth string defense once again has a major collapse in the final drive of the game, and the Denver Broncos lose on a last-second field goal to the San Francisco 49ers, 21-20. A rough way for this game to end because overall I felt like it was a very positive game with a lot more positive things to take away than our first outing against the Cardinals. But unfortunately, the final result just was not meant to be because of our collapse there at the end. But this team still has a lot of kinks to work out. That's very evident. But there's also plenty of positive things to take away that make me feel, quite frankly, a lot better about this team than I did a week ago today. So before we get officially started here, let's just get some people zipping on in here. Looks like we've got D-Rock in the house. Thank you so much for tuning in, D-Rock. We got Ray in the house. Donnie says, how pathetic. I mean, that's what happens. It's preseason football. Third stringers going against third stringers. 49ers had Trey Lance in there, a guy that they're really trying to build some confidence in. And that's what happens when you put a talented player like Trey Lance in there against a third, fourth string defense. That kind of stuff happens, you know? I mean, yeah, Broncos country. I as much like every fan out there, I would have wanted this game to end differently, but I'm not mad about this. I'm really not. This is a great this was a really great overall performance by this team. We just couldn't finish with a third string defense going against a talented player in Trey Lance. So Blitz, when you're curious about why Russell Wilson was taken out when the rest of the starters plays, we'll get into that for sure. We'll definitely get into it, but short answer is I basically feel like Sean was happy with what he saw from Russell Wilson in that opening drive and didn't feel the necessity to put him back out there and either risk an injury or risk a bad drive because he played well and he had a strong week of practice as well. That could have gone into the decision as well. So we'll get into that. Let's just jump right into the game summary here, Broncos country. First drive of the game, defense got a crack at it. Brock Purdy and the 49ers were out there, their starting group, and they marched down the field to start off. Deebo Samuel had a couple of big plays, but Denver was able to tighten up in the red zone as Jonathan Cooper got a big sack predicated on some Zach Allen pressure. That was a great play that caused San Francisco to stall out in the red zone on their first drive, and Denver was able to hold them to a field goal. So a really strong rebound from our defense after getting carved up to start the drive. Missouri says a fight broke out during the stands, and you're all, oh my God, of course there was. One guy was bleeding after getting beat up by a guy in a Jerry Rice jersey. Let me tell you what, man. I will say fights in a football stadium are one hell of a thing to witness in person. One time, this I was in Mile High, and these two drunk idiots were going at it right behind me, and they spilled their beer down my shirt, and I don't drink whatsoever, and I had to drive home after that, and I was reeking of booze. I was like, oh my God, please don't get pulled over, because literally I don't drink. The stuff just doesn't agree with my system. But I was going home just reeking of booze, driving home that whole way, just begging not to get pulled over, because that would have just sucked. But that is fights and stands, man. That is something else. But anyway, there were like 20 guys in the brawl. Gee whiz. I can't wait to go take a look at that. That's something, man. That is something. Sports losses and alcohol just do not mix. I will definitely say that. I've been on the winning end of sports fights, and I've not been involved in the fight, but I've seen the winning end of sports fights in person, and I've seen the losing end of sports fights in person. Yeah, that's hilarious. That really is. But back to the game here, guys. After the first team defense was able to hold the 49ers offense to a field goal, Russell Wilson and the first team offense came in there, and Russell Wilson led them downfield for a really strong drive. The first pass was incomplete to Javonte Williams, who dropped a screen, unfortunately. But on 2nd down and 10, Russ went right back to Javonte. It was a broken play from the beginning. The offensive line initially held up, but Russ kind of did hold on to the ball a little long. But it's all right, though, because Russ did vintage Russ things, scrambled out of the pocket, and was able to deliver a really beautiful ball to Javonte on the run. There was defensive holding as well. That was partially why Russ held on to the ball too long, because the target that he wanted downfield initially was being held. Then Javonte did take a carry and had no gain. Russell Wilson got a couple of really nice runs in there on his sole drive. He had a big carry on a read option play that ended up getting called back because of a Cortland Sutton hold. That was one problem we saw throughout the game, Broncos country, is that on outside runs, be it with Russell Wilson or Jaleel McLaughlin, our wide receivers held to seal the edge, and a couple of those runs got called back. Blitz says, just wondering, notice Clark on 3rd string defense. You know, I was going to talk about that. I noticed that as well. And in training camp, they've been rotating the edge rushers pretty consistently to where it's been pretty hard to get a gauge on where each one sits on the depth chart, because they've put in a heavy dose of Frank Clark, Randy Gregory, Nick Bonitto, and Jonathan Cooper. Right now, it feels like they're giving Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonitto looks ahead of Randy Gregory, or not Randy Gregory, ahead of Frank Clark. And that's interesting. That really is. That hasn't really been something that's transpired in camp too much. So that's something to monitor for sure. Absolutely, Jess. That's the main reason why I don't drink. I got to be honest, I have a morbid fear of throwing up, and alcohol, all I've seen from people who drink alcohol is it makes them throw up. So yeah, no, I'm good. So the first DJ says the 1st and 2nd team nice. The 3rd team defense absolutely needs work. 100%. This game confirmed that today. I'm glad how the 1st and 2nd team played. I'm ready for the first game. We will do good. I sure hope so, man. I sure do hope so. All right, guys. It looks like Sean Payton is actually at the podium. So you know what I'm going to do, Broncos country? Bear with me for the sort of roughness here doing this, but we're going to bring in Sean. We are going to bring in Sean Payton's press conference. Let's listen to the man talk.
Well, I thought protection we were better.
Let me know if we could hear Sean. Okay, guys.
Our time of possession was.
Do I need? I'm going to turn him up a little bit.
A little bit better than a week ago. You talking about the end of the half? Well, it went upstairs. Yeah.
Can you guys hear Sean okay?
Yeah, but it happened super fast for him, so I don't know what time.
Oh, the end of the half. That was so ugly. And apparently it went upstairs. You could see Sean's furious about it too.
Well, we've kind of been seeing it.
Right now I've got it as high as it can go, unfortunately. The audio is just kind of crap coming from the press conference on Broncos
I wouldn't
Twitter.
say anyone's surprised. Yeah, I thought he looked sharp.
Be nice if we could hear the questions.
Yeah, I thought, well, especially early on, we struggled later, but early on I thought we did a good job. Created 2 turnovers. We hit the quarterback a lot, and that was good.
Jess, am I mute or is Sean?
Yeah, that's on us coaches. We had 12 guys out there, and that should never happen. But we're trying to make a substitution. We'll get that cleaned up.
I've got Sean as high as he can go volume-wise.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was one of the things we talked about, taking it away and protecting it. Mahar? I was pleased with Mahar tonight. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Very brief presser from Sean tonight.
Yeah, I'm worried about my own team. I'm not worried about Trey Lance.
Love that.
I don't enjoy when we can't get a simple end-to-half situation correctly officiating. So, no, I don't. I like being friendly with those guys. But, man, then we get a substitution. We're trying to if you sub on offense, the defense has a chance to make a substitution. There's a sub that takes place on the touchdown pass at the end of the game, and they're right at the line of scrimmage. So it's preseason for the officials.
I'm glad Sean's calling this out. I'm glad Sean's calling.
Really, there's a number.
Excuse me. I'm glad Sean's calling this out. I really am.
That we'll clean up, but yeah. We'll look at the tape, and I think, man, I thought inside we were pretty stout. We didn't defend the boots very well early on.
No,
we didn't
did
defend
not.
the receiver screens. We haven't stopped one of those yet. But I thought we defended some of the run.
He is, Jess, he is.
And then forced a field goal with the first group. That was encouraging. And then, it wasn't until late in the game. So we'll look at some of that stuff. One last question.
Okay, well, apparently they cut it off. That's great. Thanks, Twitter. Thanks, Broncos.
We'll look at some of that stuff. One last question.
Okay, apparently that was that. Oh. All right, so... Well, yeah, Sean Payton definitely not pleased with what we've seen tonight. I can't believe the Broncos Twitter cut that off there, but yeah, definitely not pleased with the overall lack of execution in the end. He wasn't pleased with the execution on some of the defensive stuff in the beginning as well, on that first drive, but we cleaned it up at the end. We were able to hold them to a field goal, so that's a positive. But yeah, Sean Payton, you can tell that what transpired at the end of the game this evening, Broncos country, is not going to transpire again. It's just not. The way that this game ended... Oh, go away. Go away. Thank you. The way that this game ended, too, was just a really, really tough lack of situational football there by the Broncos. We allowed San Francisco to go downfield and score a touchdown after we scored a touchdown out of our own. Trey Lance made several really good throws there. And then after that, we went 3 and out. That was pretty much the end of that after that. And then San Francisco was able to go downfield and kick that game-winning field goal. We just gave up some tough plays there at the end. We allowed them to burn down the clock and kneel out the clock there at the end of the game. All right, we got Javonte now on the podium. I'm going to try something a little different. Or no, that's not going to work. All right, we got Javonte Williams on the podium, guys. I'm going to go ahead and bring Pookie in here. Got his first game action tonight. Looked pretty decent overall, I thought.
Yeah, I'm even more excited. Just seeing the way that we improved from last week to this week, the O-line and everybody like that. It just looks promising for us, and hopefully we can try.
Probably in his cardiologist advice. That was a touchdown, I feel like. Yeah, I agree. And then guts for Jalen Virgil there, man. Staying in the game after he got hurt. He had to get carted off with a knee injury after that. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of up and down, just being happy to be able to play again, but also just thinking that I got hurt last time I got tackled. So there was a lot of nerves going into it, but once I got it out of the way, I felt pretty good.
And that's what you want. You DM'd me the 49ers brawl. Okay, thank you, Beast. I appreciate you. All right, so that was Pookie on the podium right there. Let's come over here and look at some stats from this game, Broncos country. So for Pookie, carry-wise, he had 3 carries for 12 yards, 4 yards per carry. He got involved in the receiving game a little bit, though. They tried to get him involved on the first play of the game with a screen-off play action, but he dropped it. Overall, though, off 5 targets, still had 4 catches for 18 yards. He had a rep as well in pass protection. Like he just said, he took that first hit to his knee and was really able to get confident with taking a hit down there, which is really, really good to see. We had Jalen Virgil, obviously, with that play for 50 yards. That was our biggest chunk play of the day from Jarrett Stidham. I thought today was a better day from Jarrett Stidham overall, definitely. He went 12 for 17 for 130 yards. Wasn't perfect by any means. Russell Wilson Had we not had that drop there from Javonte, it would have been 4 for 6 through the air for Russell Wilson. He had a throwaway on one. I can't remember what the other incompletion was off the top of my head, but overall strong from Russell Wilson in the passing game. And when the pocket broke down, Russell Wilson was able to go ahead and make those big plays happen with his feet, which is a big difference from last year. And Texan, that part of it is where I will disagree with you, because I feel like Russell Wilson actually looked like a player who can get out of trouble when a play breaks down in the pocket. Last year, he didn't look like that player. I mean, we had some poor situational awareness towards the end of this game, Texan, but trust me, this team looked night and day from last year. It really did. I mean, our third string defense, that's kind of what you have to expect with when you have a third string defense in there, especially going against a player like Trey Lance. So maybe I'm just choosing to take the more optimistic side of things here, but I saw a lot more positive things than negative things to take away from this. I'm not upset I'm upset, obviously, about our team collapsing at the end and losing, but I'm not as upset as I would have been if this were obviously a regular season game and this happened. You can hear it in Sean Payton's voice. This crap will not happen in the regular season. He won't stand for it. I'm just watching the TV right now to make sure nobody else comes on the podium, and I can bring that in if need be. They're doing the post game with Orlando Franklin in there right now for 9 News. It's cool to see Big O rising up the ranks on that. So overall, I feel like our first string unit, there was a lot of positive things to take away. And even after they decided to pull Russell Wilson, and the reason that they decided to pull Russell Wilson, I feel like, was due to the fact that Sean Payton was pleased with what we saw from him in that first drive and didn't want to either risk an injury with him or risk having a bad drive after having a really good drive. On top of that, Russell Wilson has had a really strong last few days of practice in training camp. Unfortunately, now that open practices are done for the season, I'm no longer going to be able to get out at training camp and see what's going on out there with my own eyes. But I do have some sources out there that I can talk to at least get a gauge on what's going on out there. So hopefully Russell Wilson will be able to stack some more positive days out there. Let's see here in the chat. Eastain Bassey's having a really good preseason. I agree, DH. Couldn't agree more there. Traveling Texan, or DH says, Traveling Texan, I'm not sure how you see the same team as last year. Leaps and bounds differences in this team. I agree, 100%. It's leaps and bounds better. It really is. The offensive line looked better. Garrett Bowles didn't have any overtly negative plays that I could see right away. I'll have to go back and look at the tape on that one. Ben Powers did have a couple of beats, so that's a little concerning. He's starting to raise my concern meter a little bit with his level of play. But the rest of the offensive line looked pretty good. The first team did on the initial evaluation. Again, I'm going to have to go back and look at the tape and make sure that there's nothing I missed out there. Texan, I disagree with you, honestly. Russell Wilson looked fine out there. He didn't look like a declining player. He actually looked like somebody who's kind of found the fountain of youth a little bit, especially with his mobility and making those off-schedule plays. He didn't look like that last season at all. So I actually feel like Russell Wilson had a much stronger performance out there than you're giving him credit for, but that's just me. The Niners starting offense looked 10 times better than our starting offense. Hopefully I'm wrong, but boys and girls, this team ain't making the playoffs. I mean, okay, I don't think this team is a Super Bowl team, but you have to realize who our coach is. Sean Payton is almost allergic to losing seasons. He's had some 7-9 seasons throughout his career, but that's the worst it's gone. I mean, Sean Payton, in his first year in New Orleans, took a god-awful 2005 Saints team that was morally deflated for several reasons, including Hurricane Katrina. He brought that team all the way back to a 10-6 team. Now, this team still has a long way to go before we can get to that point, but there is a chance that it can be microwaved because there's a lot of positive things, again, to take away here. The offensive line did not look anywhere near as atrocious as they did against Arizona. And San Francisco, as far as their play calling was concerned, they called a lot of easy completions there for Brock Purdy off bootlegs. They're just really hard to defend. if you're the Broncos. I can break that down on tape, man. I don't feel like it was just a lot of really clean, efficient execution from San Francisco. I'm not overly concerned about this. I'm really not. So I think also it would be cool if you could do a post-game call-in show. That'd be awesome. I might have to see about looking into that. I know my partner, Grid, Derek, the host of Detroit Lions Syndicate, he does that sometimes. So I'll have to ask him what he does, how he goes about doing that. So I would definitely be down for that. Yeah, that'd be awesome, Tex. That would be absolutely awesome. I love that. I think the big takeaway also here, Jaleel McLaughlin. Tristan says Jaleel McLaughlin starting RB. I don't think starting RB, but I definitely think he's locked up that RB3 role behind Williams and Perine. He's surpassed Tony Jones on the depth chart. Tyler Beatty got hurt, so he's definitely surpassed him on the depth chart. Right now, Jaleel McLaughlin, you can't justify him not being RB3. The burst, the explosiveness, the ability to just find the tiniest little crease and hit it. He had the big return today. After his first kick return rep, he fumbled it. So overall, man, I'm very, very pleased with Jaleel McLaughlin. He's locked up that RB3 role for me. There's no way you can justify sneaking him onto the practice squad. His tape's out there. He's going to get claimed. Jaleel McLaughlin's made the team, Broncos country. I've been on the Jaleel McLaughlin hype train ever since we signed him as an undrafted free agent. I took a look at his Cats tape and fell in love with him. And so, overall, man, I couldn't be more happy with Jaleel McLaughlin. 7 carries for 45 yards. Had I believe it was a 49 or something like that yard return. It was a massive return for Jaleel McLaughlin there. It was 44 yards. So, a 44-yard return there for Jaleel McLaughlin. I mean, love this. I love this team. My family had season tickets for 30 years, so my loyalty is to the Broncos until we die. I'm just saying, I see how far behind KC, the Chargers, and the Jets, how far we are in comparison to the Jets, KC, and the Chargers, and it's discouraging. I mean, sure, that definitely could be true, and I feel like definitely with Kansas City it is. Jets, I have to see more with them, quite frankly. I'm rooting for the Jets. I actually am kind of in the minority on that. I know with Broncos country, I'm actually rooting for Nathaniel Hackett to do well over there. But, and then Chargers right now, again, I'm not confident in their coaching. I'm not. So, I feel like this team is probably still a ways away from competing for a title, but I don't think this team is as far off from playoffs as people are giving them credit for. They still have to clean shit up. I'm not saying they don't have to clean shit up, but they do have an outside chance to get in. They really do. How are we behind the Chargers? We beat them last year. Also, both games against the Chiefs last year. I mean, the Chiefs, yeah, it's true. We really beat ourselves in those last games against the Chiefs, man. Especially that first one. That first one, we beat ourselves in the end. The second one kind of required some ref ball. So we've had the Chiefs on the ropes before. I feel like this team needs to clean a lot of stuff up, but we have a disciplinarian in Sean Payton that's not going to stand for us shooting ourselves in the foot. And we've shot ourselves in the foot twice now in the preseason, and Sean's livid about it. You could see it in his presser today. If this continues into the regular season, the contributors to that problem will not be on the field. It's that simple. Yeah, I mean, that's honestly what this team needs is a killer defense and a serviceable offense. And right now, that's what the offense looks like. It looks serviceable. It doesn't look like a world beater. It doesn't look like a... I'll say this. This team looks like a team that could probably get away with beating the Chiefs in the regular season once. But there's no way in hell if we have to play somebody like Cincinnati in a key game, which we obviously don't play them in the regular season, but if we got to play them in the postseason, if we got to that point... This team is not going to go far if we do make the postseason. I think we have to set realistic ceilings for this team, and I think the realistic ceiling for this team is 10-7. Now, as far as realistic floors for this team, again, Sean Payton is a coach who has never had a double-digit losing season in his career, and I don't think that's going to change. I feel like for better or for worse, the floor for this Denver Broncos team is 8-9. So that's only really a couple of game difference right there. But that's where I feel like this team sits right now. We're slightly above average. but that's leaps and bounds better than where this team was last year. I feel like this team has to clean up just the overall execution on the offensive line, but I cannot complain at all about the execution from Russell Wilson. I really can't. Texan says, born and raised in Aurora, went to Eagle Crest, Metro State, graduate, moved to Texas for work. Nice, very nice. Russ at the podium. Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right, let's get Russ in, and we'll rewind him. Okay, good. He's only been on for a minute. We're good.
Game, obviously, and be able to get the ball out and throw the ball down the field and all that.
Thank
kind of
you,
stuff.
Beast.
It's hard for the defense. It can't.
By the way, Beast, when I get into my, I'll mod you in a second, Beast, when I can get over or here.
It gives me a great chance to.
Here we go. I can mod you right now.
Use my legs.
Welcome to the Mod Club, Beast.
Yeah, I think Coach Payton has done a tremendous job of just bringing us all together and really, getting us to compete at the highest level. I think also too. For me personally, you go through a journey, and you go through, I want to play 20 plus years, so when you go through that, there's going to be some tough moments. There's going to be some highs. There's going to be some lows, a lot more highs than lows. But I think knowing that to weather storms, knowing how to, take everything and understand that, gratitude and love for this game, it never changes. It never wavers on your best days or your toughest days. Knowing that the best days are ahead. And so I'm just grateful that I got great people around me, in terms of teammates, the coaching staff and Coach Payton and the rest of the staff has done a tremendous job of just teaching us every day. My love for the game is, never wavers. Just the passion, the love for being out in between those white lines. I played a lot of football games. I've been in a lot of moments, and every time I step in between those white lines, you feel like a kid all over again. So I'm just grateful. Yeah, that's a great defense, a great team, great organization, the 49ers. They've done a lot of great things over the years. And if anybody's played them a lot, I have.
Put up a pretty strong performance against their first-team defense, too. Granted, they didn't have Nick Bosa out there. Take that for what you will, but
on both sides of it. And so, I know what a great defense that is.
Yeah, I got the preseason All-22 all figured out. Thank you so much, Beast.
Out with our first team offense and play well in battle and do the things that we were able to do. It feels a great thing to do, and it's a good measure of
Jess,
where
you
we
are
can be and
100%
where we can
correct
go.
on that.
And there's still a lot more work to do, but I'm excited about who we are and where we're going.
Welcome to the Mod Club as well, Texan.
Yeah, Garrett Bowles is one of the best tackles in the game. He's able to, he's so athletic.
What a kiss ass.
I think the thing about him, just obviously having that severe injury last year and then to come back,
I love you, Russ,
that
but
first time stepping back on the field.
What a kiss
it's
ass.
Always, it's always a thing that, it's like taking that and understanding that this is a part of the process. And so he took that huge step again this week and this really over the past couple of weeks.
Hope you're right, Russell.
Looking great. He's that
he did look
left
better
tackle
though
over
this
there
week.
that
He did.
Trust and he can do.
He
a lot of
didn't
things
have
over
any
there, so.
overtly bad plays that I
also,
saw
too,
right
he's
away.
a great teammate. Garrett's he's a guy that will do anything for you. He's a guy who battles, a guy who wants to win at the highest level. And so I'm really excited about the five guys we have up front.
Yeah, no, he's not Broncos fan. I have to agree with you on that one. Sorry.
Ladies, go ahead. Well, I think the thing that everybody will talk about is obviously him scoring and making plays. But that doesn't just happen overnight. It's one of those things that you work at it every day. He's a guy that comes in early. He's, one of the first guys there every morning. He's a guy that sits in the front of the room. He takes notes every day. He's a professional. There's a certain process, and
love to know who he's talking
really,
about, but we can't hear the questions.
And a lot of the hard work that a guy gives and what he gives to, the process, especially as a young player, and to really learn how to be a professional. I remember when I was a rookie, just being able to have other people to look up to and watch, and just his understanding of how to take care of his body, his mind, his soul, all of that, and then also to his game. Man, what a blessing to have such a young, player who can really do a lot of special things. His kick return tonight, like you mentioned, his runs, his catches, he can do it all. And so, but more importantly, the best thing that I think that I see is his work habits. When it comes to practice, he takes the play in
Again,
practice.
I'd love to know who he's talking about.
He runs to the end zone every single time. That's his mentality, and that's where greatness comes.
I'm thinking maybe it's like Javonte or Jaleel.
Well, the thing about Trey, people have to understand that I believe he's 22 years old.
Yeah.
The guy who got drafted at 20 years old.
23, I believe. He's a little
weight
younger
the
than
world on
me.
his shoulders, and I think that the thing about it is he's a tremendous football player. He's got a lot of gifts, he's a lot of talent, and it's gonna turn for his good. And I believe Trey is a guy that's one, he's worked at his craft. Just watching him and just all the things.
I'm happy for Trey Lance, man. He needed a performance like tonight. He really did.
Ignore the noise.
Just to build some confidence as a young player, man.
There's only so many people in the world that get to step on in between the white lines on a National Football League field. And
Blake, I got good news for you.
And,
the results of the final results of the game, not so much. But overall, we got good news.
There's gonna be some tough days. There's gonna be some great days. And knowing that, if anybody knows, I know. But just knowing that, like it's one of those things that. You just trust the process. You trust the process. You enjoy the journey, and you have tunnel vision. You put the blinders on. You just keep working, and there's always a breakthrough. So, I'm rooting for him. I think he's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability, a lot of years left.
Okay. All right. So just to kind of wrap things up here, man.
He's got a lot of talent.
Sorry, Russ. Go away. Ben DiNucci, I definitely feel like did not have his strongest performance out there. That is probably one of the biggest negatives I feel like to take away from tonight. And honestly, a part of the reason why we lost this game, honestly, is that this offense could not execute on our final drive. And Ben DiNucci was a part of that, went just 3 for 7 for 13 yards. He did have that touchdown to Jaleel McLaughlin following that muffed punt there. So, yeah, overall, man, just the lack of execution at the end of the game from our third string unit is what got us. But the positive things to take away are the offensive line held up relatively well for the most part, in this game. I mean, Russell Wilson was kept relatively clean, and when he did have to scramble, he looked like vintage Russell Wilson out there. He really did. Jaleel McLaughlin is RB3. Elijah Garcia, Essane Bassey, two young defenders who had picks tonight. Elijah Garcia had those 2 sacks in the Arizona game. Essane Bassey had a pick in the Arizona game. And now both of them are able to build on that massive momentum. How was the offensive line? The offensive line, again, had some issues. Ben Powers had 2 blown blocks, but Garrett Bowles didn't look egregious out there based on what I saw on initial glance. I'll have to go back and look at the tape. Didn't notice anything other than that, so that was definitely strong. Garrett Bowles did not get a holding call. That was Cortland Sutton got a holding call early in the game. Cortland Sutton did. It was on a read option play that Russ kept the ball on, and Court was trying to seal the edge for Russ to cut outside, and it ended up getting called for a holding call. Yeah, so that false start, everybody but the center play, what happened there was Lloyd Cushenberry was off on the snap count. And so Russell Wilson and the entire rest of the team was ready for him to snap the ball, and he didn't. Whenever you hear those false start, everybody but the center plays, it's because the center didn't snap the ball. It's funny that they say everybody but the center because that penalty is actually the center's fault. I find that kind of ironically funny. So just to kind of wrap things up here, guys, because I do want to go ahead and get started on this Russell Wilson film study video and get that out tonight. We had some positive things to take away overall with Russell Wilson making those off-schedule plays, especially that one to Javonte Williams. That was really, really nice. The execution from Jarrett Stidham was a lot more clean. It's just that lack of execution there at the end that Sean was furious about those unnecessary, stupid penalties. Sean, he's going to demand that gets cleaned up this week. And I'm just glad that we actually have a coach who's going to hold players accountable for their bad plays and make sure that it gets cleaned up. So overall, guys, a frustrating way to lose the game. But I'm curious about your overall thoughts on this team and your confidence level going into our final preseason game against the Los Angeles Rams. We've got joint practices coming up this week. Unfortunately, those are going to be closed to the public, so I'm not going to be able to be out there, and we're not going to be getting too many reports from Broncos media coming out of those, unfortunately. But hopefully we have a strong performance in those joint practices, and it remains to be seen if the starters are going to play in our preseason finale against the Rams. The Broncos may treat this game kind of like the old fourth preseason game where it's mostly just the backups and the third and fourth stringers who play. So yeah, man, overall, a lot of positive things to take away from tonight, but just a frustrating way that it ended. All right, Broncos country, I'm going to go ahead and dip out of here and get started on this Russell Wilson film study. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned into the live stream for the game tonight and to everyone who tuned in for this live stream. We've still got 33 people in the house right now. Yes, Blake, the practices are in Denver. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and dip out of here. And until next time, Broncos country, I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.